Hey guys, what's up? Roger here, and welcome to 10 Mile Creations. Now, unfortunately, my blue light is dead, so no ambiance today. I apologize. But I want to talk to you a little bit today about some inspiration for you and maybe some things to help you get started with your journey on creating a 3D print business. Now, I've been through a lot of concepts over the last couple of months, and I've come to some very good conclusions based off some information that's been shared with me with very successful 3D print business people and knocking things over. One of those concepts is the niche market. And I think in the beginning, I had a bit of a misunderstanding of what niche is exactly. So let me give you an example of what would not be a good niche product. So let's say you create a air freshener holder for the cockpit of an airplane. Now, certainly this is a niche product, but it lacks one vital element of a successful niche product, and that is demand. See, unfortunately, you can create a very niche product, but if there's no demand for it, well then it doesn't really matter. So you can sit down in CAD and come up with some crazy idea that no one's ever come up with before, but it doesn't really matter because if no one wants it, then it's not going to sell. Recently, Slant 3D shared a video about a guy that started his online Etsy store, and he actually was very successful within the limit of the time that I've been doing it. So where have I fallen apart where that guy found success? Well, it came to a niche market. See, he started creating products for a very popular coffee maker. And this coffee maker had some fundamental issues. And his 3D printed products solved those problems. You see that theme. We've niched down, we've solved a problem. And those are two very, very important items. These are products that people wanted because it fixed a problem with their coffee maker. And that is definitely the formula for success. So I always tell you guys, look into what you already do to find solutions. And that's the truth. Another good example would be 3D Print Academy. He creates dust collectors or sawdust collectors for compound miter saws. He might create other stuff too, but that's just the first thing that comes to mind. That's a very niche market, and that product really didn't exist prior to him making it. Another example that I bring up a lot is Samcraft. A guy that was involved, is involved, I always say was, he's still involved, he still does it, but is involved in the laser engraving community and created products for his community. He created laser engraving jigs and created a very successful business off of that. These are all niche markets where they solved a problem for someone. And I can't stress that enough. Unfortunately for me, I'm not involved in anything else right now. So I can't solve problems for my community because the only community I'm involved in at the moment is 3D printing. Now, if I look back on some of the things I've been involved with, those are things I could certainly possibly get into and create niche market products with demand. So let me give you a couple examples because these could be things that you could do also. So for example, remote control cars. Now, mind you, probably not the bashers, right? The guys that run 50 miles an hour and hit a jump and launch their car in the air. Now, your 3D print product's probably not going to be good for that. But the drifters, the guys that do more scale modeling, those things could definitely be something that you could create products for. The ham radio community. Ham radio community is big. They don't make a lot of noise. You don't hear much out of them, but it's a very tight-knit community and it is large. And those guys have a demand for specific products. So mounts for their rigs or antenna parts. There's lots of stuff that you could create for these guys. Some of the stuff they haven't even thought of until you would show it to them, and then that would probably create a huge demand. Another good example would be drones. Archery. I was involved in archery for a long time. And I can think of a lot of small products that you could create to assist archers. Of course, hunting and guns and you name it, it's all the stuff I've done over the years. Any market that you're involved in, those are the ones that you could create the products and create a standout item to serve your community. I only say that because I am falling short in that myself. So we may be in the same boat together. So really, that's where I need to start to focus. One of my most popular products was given to me by a person in a niche community. And he said, this would be great if you could make something like this. So I did. And I sent it to him and he thought it was amazing. And then I listed it online and sure enough, other people thought it was amazing. Now, I'm not selling a ton of them, don't get me wrong, but I'm selling enough that I need to print more ahead of time to cover demand, because at this point with 2 printers, print on demand won't cover it. And I find myself waiting hours and hours to produce the product before I can ship it. Anytime I'm on this subject, it reminds me of Levi Strauss. Back in the gold rush days when everyone was going out west to try to find gold, they had to buy certain essential items. So shovels, picks, axes, all that stuff. They also had to buy clothes. So Levi Strauss was there to sell them good quality blue jeans. Now, not everyone found gold, but everyone needed blue jeans. And Levi Strauss made himself quite wealthy by being there, not selling the product, but selling the tools that people needed to create that product. Now, another subject I wanted to get into, even though I hate to because I've been dragging through this all week long, and that is Creative Commons. It's such a complicated subject, and I could get into intent and I can get into a bunch of different stuff. But I'd rather just cut to the chase and tell you plain and simple. Creative Commons covers creative works, not functional parts. So even though you go on Makerworld and you find a generic DeWalt battery holder and it has the ND 4.0 Creative Commons license applied to it, the reality of it is, because it's a purely functional part, Creative Commons does not apply. So you technically don't have to follow that Creative Commons license. I say that because recently I was inspired by a product on Makerworld, and he had applied the Creative Commons to this, even though it was a purely functional part, and I didn't have to honor it, but just out of respect, I did. Now, his was no derivatives, no commercial, the standard international 4.0 license. Now, because this is a purely functional part, technically, I didn't have to honor it, but out of respect, I did. I went into Fusion 360 and I created my own version that would serve my purpose better than his original model. Now, this model is substantially different than his. It is wider, taller, longer in every aspect. There is not 1 millimeter of semblance between the 2 products. But at a 30-foot view, people may say that's the same product. Now, people got into the comments of my video and were telling me that I was stealing this guy's product, when in all actuality, I was going above and beyond what I actually needed to do, because it's a functional part that can't be covered by Creative Commons. But I allotted for some, respect for his design and just, complied with the Creative Commons license, even though it doesn't really apply. By creating my own model, I've created a unique work that doesn't fall under his Creative Commons license. Again, Creative Commons, if it applied in this case, which it doesn't, but if it did, it covers his creative work. It does not cover the concept of his work. So you can't take his work and modify it. You can't take his work and sell it. You can't do anything to his work unless he gives you explicit permission. But it doesn't give him ownership of the concept of the item. Now, the reason I say that is because if this was an actual creative work, let's say like this filigree, if I upload this filigree on Makerworld, I can apply the Creative Commons license to it, meaning you will not be able to create a direct, exact copy of this, and that's fair. This is a creative work. But a scoop is a purely utilitarian item and is not subject to Creative Commons. It actually is not even subject to patent law because a scoop is a common item and it cannot be patented. Now, trust me, I've had to endure a ridiculous amount of negative comments. I've had to mute people on YouTube because they just wouldn't leave it alone. Their opinion is not law. Their opinion is not fact. But unfortunately, they refuse to do their homework and learn about what Creative Commons actually is. So I want to give you a breakdown of a scenario where Creative Commons would apply and how that would work. Now, a good example of that are plant pots. We know that on Makerworld, there is a plethora of plant pots. Now, majority of them have some decorative design on the outside. Now, the decorative design of that plant pot is covered by Creative Commons because it's a creative work. The plant pot itself cannot be protected by Creative Commons. A cylinder is a common object and it cannot be protected by Creative Commons. But the decorative design put around the outside of it is a unique work and can be protected. I think that's an important distinction. Creative Commons protects artistic works, and that's it. It does not cover common items. It does not cover functional parts. You can create an amazing phone holder and put it on Makerworld, and Creative Commons does not protect your phone holder. Now, if your phone holder has some creative elements, let's say it has an artistic design on it, then the artistic design is covered under Creative Commons, but the concept of the phone holder itself is not covered. That's an important distinction, and the fact that a lot of people don't understand that is a bit mind-blowing to me. If you'd like more information about it or more clarity, I'll drop a link down below to my Makerworld post where I outline much of the details about this. So what does this mean for you as a maker of functional parts? Understand, if you create a functional part and you put that STL file online, that it's subject to being taken by someone else. Now, and not necessarily respectfully, in my case where I honored his design and created my own just by inspiration, but the fact is that people can take your design exactly as it is and print it out and sell it, because Creative Commons does not cover your functional part. So be aware of that. If you intend to sell a product, if you create a unique functional product, then you should never put that online. You should never make that STL available, unless your intent is to sell it to let other people print and sell it. A lot of people will do that. They'll create functional parts and they'll put them on things and sell them to people, and then those people will in turn sell those products. And that's perfectly fine. But understand that Creative Commons does not protect your functional part. So people can just take your part and use it if they want. Nothing about your functional part can be protected by Creative Commons. You would have to get a patent to cover that product. And if that product is a common product, a common functional part, it probably won't be able to be patented anyway. This is something you need to be aware of as a creator. Now, this whole conversation or the whole concept came up because of the scoop that I had created, but it's kind of moved beyond the scope of the scoop. The scoop that I created was a unique work. It was not a copy of his. So even if Creative Commons applied to that product, I had created a unique product. My design was actually taken off of Makerworld by a copyright claim, but once I submitted the CAD drawings of what I had created as a unique work, it was restored. Because then it became obvious that it wasn't a copy of the original, but it was a unique work. And that's why it's back on Makerworld right now. Now, I hate to go on and on about that, but it's important that you know. If you're creating a small 3D print business, an important part of that is to protect your products. Because more than likely, you're going to be creating functional products. You should never put those online if you intend to keep them just for yourself. Your functional part can only be protected if you don't share it. But understand, people have the ability to take inspiration from your product and create their own version. And that is well within their rights. Unless you get a patent on a product, more than likely, someone out there is going to make a copy of it. Now, one of the biggest examples of that is these battery holders. The first person that created a DeWalt battery holder for the wall doesn't hold the exclusive right to the concept of a battery holder. The fact is now there are thousands of people that create DeWalt battery holders and sell them online. This is a common product and it cannot be protected by Creative Commons. All right, guys, well, that's it for the Sunday Ramble, and Lord knows that was a ramble, but it's important for us to know. Protect your neck. This is what it is. If you create functional parts and you want to have some exclusivity, understand that you don't. People can see your product and create their own version. There's nothing you can do about it. So when you release that hot product and it takes off, then understand that it's on a time limit. It's just a matter of time before someone creates another version of it and you now have competition. That's just something you have to deal with. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next week.